So recently I uploaded a video talking about my favorite products in every category. Some products had one favorite, some products had two favorites, some products had three favorites, and I said I'm going to do a separate eyeshadow palette favorites video because there's too many eyeshadow palettes to talk about. Of course, I have too many favorites. So that's what we're going to do today. Hello and welcome if you are new here. My name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I'm going to talk about my favorite eyeshadow palettes in every category, and I will link all of these palettes down below in the description box if they are available. And I will be popping up close-ups and swatches. If I forget to say which ones I get in PR, I always pop up on the corner of the swatches the letters PR of the ones that I got sent. And if you enjoy eyeshadow content, you definitely should consider sticking around. I do talk about eyeshadow palettes a lot over here. I will link the video I was just referencing, my favorites in every category, down in the description box. Everything that is on my face will also be in the description box. And I would love to know, as I'm going through all of these palettes, what your thoughts are on them. What are some of your favorite palettes in the categories I'm talking about? I will list the prompts down below if you want to answer any of them, or if you are a content creator and you want to do this video, go ahead and do it and tag me as well. That would be great. So I have adjusted a little bit the prompts or the questions or whatever from the time I did this 2 years ago. I do have some same favorites from that video 2 years ago. So some of these palettes, they've stood the test of time. The original creator of this video is Angelica Nyqvist, so I will link Angie's channel down below if for some reason you don't know who she is. I'm sure you do. So we're gonna start off with the first top three is top three favorite neutral palettes. My favorite palette of 2023, I wanna say, or 2022, whenever this palette came out. It was the Full Fantasy palette in collaboration with Laura Lee Los Angeles and Lunar Beauty. And this still remains to be one of my favorite neutral palettes, but also one of my favorite palettes in my whole collection. This is the Lunar Beauty packaging and formula for that matter. With the raised details, absolutely gorgeous, luxurious packaging that Manny does with all of his palettes. I really, really enjoy this a whole lot. It's really gorgeous. And on the inside, we have mostly a neutral color story. There are some muted pops of color, but I'm calling this a neutral palette, okay? Because for the most part, it is. Absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I really enjoy the Lunar Beauty formula. It's very user-friendly. It's very blendable. The mattes aren't overly pigmented, but you can build them up and they just work. I like how this is built in terms of light to deep in the mattes. I always enjoy a light to deep gradient in my mattes. And I really love the shimmers from Lunar Beauty. They're just standard, smooth, sparkly, no frills. I mean, there is a duochrome in here, but the duochrome is not like the strongest shifting, crazy, you know, indie shadow duochrome multichromes, which honestly you're gonna see as I go through this video. I love me just a standard pretty smooth shimmer. It's just something I really enjoy. So love this palette. Still one of my favorite palettes, still definitely a favorite neutral palette. And I should reach into this one more. I haven't used it in a while. One of my favorite palettes that came out on all of last year, but definitely a favorite neutral palette, is the Cosmic Brushes Neutrals palette. And Cosmic Beauty. I'm gonna keep calling them Cosmic Brushes just because I'm so used to calling them that. So I really enjoy the I almost said it again. Cosmic Beauty formula. It is, mattes are a little more pigmented than the Lunar Beauty formula, but still really easy to work with. And the shimmers, again, are that smooth shimmer, a little more impactful than the Lunar Beauty. They have more shine to them. And I do really enjoy that they put in mostly standard shimmers. They do have one multi-chrome here called Desire, which is so gorgeous. And they usually do also put in an iridescent duochrome, which I really enjoy for the inner corner as just like a little pop of something. We've got light to deep, and I do like that this is a neutral palette, but we do also have some pops of like olive green. We also have some purples. We've got a matte black, which is always really nice. I have a matte inner corner option as well, but I just love me a neutral palette that has some muted pops of color, just like I was talking about with the Full Fantasy. Absolutely gorgeous, wonderful, great, affordable as well, which is nice. Stunning. And then we're gonna go even more affordable. My favorite like affordable neutral palette, and this is all just at this moment, by the way. You could ask me these questions a month from now and I could have different answers, okay? I just kind of went with what I was feeling in this moment. And this is the Precious Metals Mega Palette from ColourPop. I did receive this one in PR and I was so thrilled. I was gonna buy it anyway because I really enjoy the Mega Palette formula from ColourPop. I think it's some of their better formulas. And this is just a giant palette full of neutrals. Really, really nice. And I think this is done well. We have warm tones, we have cool tones, and we have some kind of neutral tones. The shimmers in this are really pretty. More stepped up in my opinion than their smaller palettes. They have a little more shine to them. There are a couple of those glitter hybrid shades, which I actually personally don't mind. I quite like them. And then we have some more standard metallics, but even the standard metallics in this are really pretty. And I really enjoy the matte formula in the Mega Palettes. I don't feel like they're too hard pressed in the pan. They are easy to pick up on the brush and they do end up looking really nice on the eyes. Again, light to deep in the mattes. Of course, with a Mega Palette, I would expect that there would be a really good gradient, but I think this is a really good quality palette. When I first received this at the beginning of last year, I used the crap out of it. And I really, really enjoy it. And this was one of the first palettes I thought of when I was thinking about my favorite neutral palettes in my collection. And by the way, these are not ranked within each category. I'm just picking them as they appear in front of me. So I'm not like going from least favorite to most favorite. The next category are my favorite monochromatic palettes. And for sure, the first one I thought of was the Ultraviolet palette in collaboration between Bella Beauté Bar and Deandra Nicole on Instagram. Dee is an Instagram creator. I will link her Instagram down below. She does amazing content, a lot of indie makeup, flat lays, reels, swatches, especially if you have deeper skin. She's really, really good to check out all the new releases and see them swatched on a deeper skin tone, but she's great and she does beautiful eye looks. And she created a monochromatic purple palette with Bella Beauté Bar, and she did a phenomenal job. I've talked about this palette so many times here on my channel, so I'll kind of make it quick, but when I look at a monochromatic palette, I'm looking for a few different things. Light to deep in my mattes, because I want to be able to have that gradient, not the same shade repeating over and over again. And I'm also looking for different undertones. And she really did a good job. There's some warmer purples, some cooler tone purples. And with all of the shimmers that are in here, all of the shimmers look very different, which is a feat in my opinion when you have a monochromatic purple palette this size. The Bella Beauté formula is very, very good. I am actually partial to their matte formula. I think it's super pigmented, super blendable, which those two things don't always go together. But I remember using the mattes in this palette for the first time and being like, what? They basically blended themselves. I was astounded. The shimmers from Bella Beauté Bar are hit or miss for me, although I will say in this particular palette, there aren't too many of those chunky textured shimmers that Bella Beauté Bar does sometimes. A lot of these are the more smooth formula, which is just my preference. But if you're looking for a monochromatic purple palette that has a lot of oomph, a lot of punch, a lot of pigment, this is a wonderful one. Another set of palettes, and I only have 2 of them, but if all of the other palettes are in this formula, which I'm assuming they are, I would definitely recommend these ones from Game Beauty. These are the Elemental palettes. I purchased Geo myself and got sent Pyro in PR. So this one is, I mean, is this a monochromatic palette? I guess it kind of is, but it is a neutral palette, but I love this palette. I got so many great looks out of it. I think the formulas in this are good. It's a very unique formula. I don't know that I can compare it to anything else. The mattes are very hard pressed in the pan and they're almost silky. So if you are someone that doesn't want like a super powdery, overly pigmented matte shadow, I think you would enjoy this. They do build up nicely, but they do require building. And the shimmers in this are very smooth. There is one multi-chrome up here and then there are 2 standard shimmers. This one is very matte heavy, which I really enjoy. And Pyro, I love. This is like a monochromatic corally red palette, which as you can tell by my eye look, I love warm tones. Absolutely love warm tones. So this is a beautiful palette, monochromatic palette if you're looking for this type of formula. Again, same exact formula I just told you about, but really stunningly, really nice palettes. I was very surprised by these. This was my first experience with the brand and I really enjoyed my time with those. And then another set of monochromatic palettes, again, one of the first palettes I thought about when I was kind of getting myself together for this video were the Avatar: The Last Airbender in collaboration with Lethal Cosmetics palettes. These palettes are so good, so good. We've got 4 different versions. We have a green palette. This is called Earth, a monochromatic green palette that does have a couple of pops of brown. The mattes in these palettes are extremely pigmented. I had tried a couple of palettes prior to this release from the brand, and I was definitely impressed with how they stepped up their formula. I definitely think the formula improved with this release. I would say this one's the least monochromatic, the Air palette, because it does have quite a few different colors, so we're not going to count that one. Pretend I didn't mention that one. The blue palette is called Water. If you're looking for a monochromatic blue palette, again, we've got a matte white, we've got 3 different gradient in terms of depth of blue, really stunning, beautiful shimmers. Some of them have special shimmers in them. And again, you know I love a warm, fiery palette, and this is the Fire palette. Same idea, a monochromatic warm tone palette. But yeah, absolutely love the quality of these palettes. They definitely improved their quality with this release. I was very impressed with both the mattes and the shimmers. The shimmers are very, very impactful in your face. Not barely their shimmers, nothing like that. And I do feel like they laid these palettes out well in a way that you are able to create really nice looks that are easy to put together. So next we have my top favorite rainbow / colorful palettes. And this, I mean, I could do an entire video on this because I review a lot of indie makeup, and indie makeup tends to be a little more on the colorful side. I did mention in my last video the Odin's Eye and Planet Spirit palette in collaboration with Betty Jean, one of my friends, which is funny. At the time I didn't know her personally. Now I know her very well. I'm still in love with this palette. I think it's a phenomenal, like, condensed rainbow-esque colorful palette. And then I also mentioned the Monteverdi Cloud Forest palette from Nomad, which again, I totally still stand by those two. Like, phenomenal quality palettes if you are a color lover and you want to try. Well, actually, I don't think you can buy Planet Spirit anymore, so forget I said that. But Monteverdi Cloud Forest, if you are wanting to try Nomad and you are like looking for bright colors, I always suggest that one. But I wanted to mention a couple other palettes because I have so many. Those are the 2 that I came to mind right away. But I wanted to mention the Fearless Holiday palette from DD Signature. This really, like I was saying with the Lethal palettes, really blew me away when I tried this palette because I like DD Signature. I've really enjoyed them. They put me on the PR list when they started back up again, and I had never tried them prior to that. But I've always enjoyed their releases. I think they do really, really wonderful collections, and they are always listening to their customers. They're always taking feedback really well, and they're just very nice people as well. And I just really enjoy their releases. But when they came out with this, I was like, oh, okay, so we're getting somewhere here now. The mattes in this are just continuing to improve, and the shimmers are so beautiful. I definitely think the shimmers are where DD Signature really stands out. And I really suggest this if you're looking for a jewel tone palette. Really, really nice jewel tone palette. I believe this is magnetic as well, which is nice. I mean, I don't personally rearrange my palettes, but you know, you can if you want to. And I like that we have a very light matte, which I will use for an inner corner highlight with any sort of look I may create with this. I will say the mattes are definitely more mid-tone to deep, so if that's something you're looking for, you would probably enjoy this, but absolutely love this palette, and definitely a really nice colorful, I wouldn't call it a rainbow palette, but a very nice colorful palette in my collection. Another palette I wanted to mention that is newer to my collection, but if you're looking for a slew of colorful shimmers, I definitely would suggest the newest Nomad palette, which is the Fairy Tale Europe palette. Now, I will say this with a caveat. I've only used this palette twice at the moment of filming. I'm pre-filming quite a bit, but from the 2 times that I've used it, I've really enjoyed it. So I wanted to just throw this out there as one of my favorite colorful palettes because this is full of beautiful, colorful shimmers. Now, we do have a row of neutral mattes on the bottoms. I mean, 2/3 of the palette is colorful in my opinion. And I really enjoy the Nomad formula. The mattes are really nice, really easy to work with, kind of mid-level pigment, and these shimmers are so beautiful. Like the good Nomad shimmer formula, which is sparkly and smooth. We have some multi-chromes in here, which is really nice. We have this iridescent multi-chrome, which I think is super fun. It's like super fiery on the eyes. A whole different bunch of different colors. Whatever you may be looking for, you would really enjoy this. And I'm gonna definitely use this as a companion palette because I think it would be really nice for that. But my #1 favorite rainbow palette has always been and will continue to be the Blend Bunny Blends palette. I did mention this in the video I did 2 years ago, but I have to give her a spotlight because she just is my favorite rainbow palette forever and always. I did win this originally from Millie from BadToTheBrow. She did a giveaway on her channel, I don't know how many years ago, 2-3 years ago. And this was my first kind of step into Blend Bunny. When I tried this, I was like, oh, okay. Like the formula of these mattes is unlike any other like I had ever tried. Pigmented, blendable, and they show up like they do in the pan. You can shear them out if you want to. They're not super powdery, but they're not so hard pressed in the pan that they're hard to pick up. Just a really nice formula. This is obviously a rainbow all matte palette. And if you didn't know, I am a professional dancer. Anytime I go to a dance competition, doesn't matter where I'm going, doesn't matter what else I'm bringing, I bring this every single time, and I use this to build out my mattes. Or like if I have a palette where I need a certain color, I reach into this every single time I bring it with me. That's why it looks absolutely disgusting on the outside. You probably can't tell, hopefully. If you're looking for an all matte rainbow palette, this is my favorite one that I would over and over again suggest forever and always. She's my favorite. The next category is favorite mini palettes. And of course, for me, the first mini palettes I think of are the Natasha Denona minis. I really enjoy her mini palettes. I think they're really good quality. I think they're curated really well, and they're really packable. Usually when I travel somewhere where I'm not gonna be doing like crazy dramatic looks, I'll pack 1 or 2 of them, and they're just really easy to use, and the quality I find is really, really nice. When I did this video 2 years ago, I mentioned the Mini Star, which is still a favorite. I still really enjoy that palette. But since that one, I've acquired more. And my favorite mini palette from Natasha Denona is the Mini Nude. I actually wore this on my wedding day, so that holds a special place in my heart. But I just, every single time I create a look with this palette, I just think it looks so gorgeous, understated, sophisticated, but still has that glam aspect to it. The mattes that are in here are really nice. We have 2 mattes, a mid-tone and a deep matte. Really easy, throw the mid-tone in the crease, the deep matte in the outer corner. We have an inner corner highlight here, and then we have 2 different options for the lid, one that's more warm, one that's more neutral, and the shimmers are just really pretty, standard, smooth shimmers. They're not multi-chromes, they're not duochromes, they don't have extra sparkle, but they're just really, really pretty, thin, not thick and chunky. It's a beautiful, tiny little neutral palette. If that's something you're looking for, highly suggest this one. For sure, it's my favorite mini palette from Natasha Denona right now. The other mini palettes I also did mention in my last video, but I'm gonna repeat it because I still stand by. These are some of my favorite mini palettes in my collection, are the ones from ColourPop. I don't even know if they make these anymore. I don't feel like all of the mini palettes are created equal. I will say that. But the ones that are like the first round that they came out with that were like ice cream themed, if I'm not mistaken, or were they ice cream themed or were they cocktail themed? I don't know. Well, I have the one mocktail. I have citrus fizz. I used to have one that was called like sorbet, but it broke. That's one downside to these. They're extremely fragile, both in the packaging and in the shadows. I've had shadows break in them, I've had packaging break in them. So that is definitely a downside, but I will say like the quality of the shadows in these palettes is some of the best quality that they've ever done. The mattes are very pigmented, a little more powdery, like there's some kick up in the pan, but again, you pick them up on your brush really nicely, and the shimmers are just very sparkly, very impactful. This one is Sweetie. I do believe they came out with this one, I want to say holiday of this past year, 2024. They came out with some like little kits, and I believe this was in one of them. Yeah, really easy, 2 mattes, 2 shimmers that go together really well, but quality-wise, very good. I will say the ones that are in their like Zodiac collection, I decluttered all of those. I didn't really think the quality was as good, personally. Could just be me. I have had so many of these, but they've all just throughout the years broken, which is really a shame. But the ones that I have left, I really enjoy. And then the third mini palettes that I want to mention that I really enjoy, they are no longer available, but they're so good, are the Birthstone palettes from BH Cosmetics. I have 3 of them. I have Diamond. They did this whole release one year, I don't remember what year it was, every month they released a birthstone that corresponded with the month and a palette that corresponded with that birthstone. Unfortunately they all come with a pressed glitter, which I'm not gonna use the pressed glitter, but all the rest of the shades, Man, I miss BH Cosmetics, don't you? Like, they were so good. But yeah, I pack Diamond all the time as a companion palette because it has like a matte white, this is a matte black. I mean, it is a matte with sparkle. You just tap off your brush if you want it to be matte. A couple of more like warm shades and this stunning like light silver. Oh my gosh, I love it. Citrine is my favorite because I love warm tones and this is so beautiful. Create a look just with this. Super warm and yummy. And then we have Pearl for June, which is again more of a warm tone neutral palette. The BH Cosmetics formula was so good. Mattes were buttery, blendable, pigmented. Shimmers were smooth. Rest in peace, BH Cosmetics. I don't think Makeup Revolution is coming back with their formula, unfortunately, but these mini palettes are some of my favorite mini palettes in my collection for sure. So now we have drugstore / affordable palettes. I will be honest with you, in the past couple of years, I have moved away from drugstore eyeshadows. I can't say that I've really tried too many in the past couple of years. So my favorite affordable brand for eyeshadows is ColourPop. I do think that they just do a phenomenal job with their eyeshadow formula. It's really good, not even just for the price, I just think it's a really good formula. And one of my favorite palettes from ColourPop, and I did mention it in this video before, but I have to mention it. It's discontinued, and I don't know why, because it's a great palette. It's the Limoncello palette. Everything from the packaging, which is transporting me to Italy. Please transport me to Italy this summer. That would be great. To this beautiful color story, which is neutrals with a couple of pops of color. These older palettes that have textured front, a little more weighted, kind of a thicker bottom than top. The pans are a little larger. These quality of palettes I think is really good. And it's not the same as the quality palettes they do now, in my opinion. This is from quite a few years ago. I feel like the mattes are pressed a little harder in the pan, but they still really end up looking nice on the eyes. They are a little more of that silky texture, not powdery. And the shimmers are just ultra smooth, ultra pretty, just really nice. Easy peasy is a really pretty duochrome. Yeah, this palette is gorgeous. I'm really sad that they discontinued it. So I won't yap too much longer about it, but I really love it. My other favorite affordable brand for eyeshadows was BH Cosmetics. My favorite BH Cosmetics palette that I own is the Optimistic AF palette. It's the warm tone palette of my dreams. Like, I love warm tones. These tones just like get me going, get me excited. I've already told you about the formula of BH Cosmetics. Just gorgeous. All three of these shimmers are just like so smooth and like glide. Let's swatch them. And I got this palette quite a while ago. Like, I'm sorry, do you see that? Do you see that shine? I know you do. Beautiful, beautiful. There was a period of time that I was going to TJ Maxx and buying all of these BH Cosmetics palettes. And my mom works at TJ Maxx, so I would tell her, like, when you're at work, can you just like scope out and see if there's any BH Cosmetics palettes? This is a few years ago now. Now that I get so much PR from brands, I'm not really going to the makeup section in TJ Maxx anymore. So let me know if you do go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls, do you still see BH Cosmetics there? I'm really curious. Are they still like liquidating their palettes? Because there was a period of time where you could find so many BH Cosmetics palettes in the store. So yeah, if you can and you see this one and you like the color story, I would definitely recommend it. And then another eyeshadow brand that I do typically enjoy from the drugstore is e.l.f. I've not really tried many of their eyeshadows, but my favorite eyeshadow palette I've tried from them is the Chipotle palette. I've also talked about this palette ad nauseum here on my channel, but man, this is the best palette they've ever done. This was back when IP collabs were not very common. Let me know if you remember when this palette was released, because I remember being released, I was like, what? Nothing shocks me now. e.l.f. could collaborate with Lysol and I would not bat an eye. But when they said they were collaborating with Chipotle, I was like, what? I was so confused. And I immediately bought it on launch day and it sold out that day. Do you guys remember that? But man, the quality of these shadows, I can't lie, so good. Great mattes, super smooth, sparkly shimmers, really pretty like neutral color story with a couple of pops of green. I don't love how it's meant to mimic the Chipotle food counter. That just kind of gross me out if I think about it too much, but I do love me some Chipotle, so I don't hate the theme.
Oh my god, I love Chipotle.
Yeah, great quality shadows. I kind of don't feel like they've done quality shadows like this since this was released, but like I said, I've not tried too much from the brand, so let me know if there's another palette of theirs that's in their permanent line that's good quality. I would love to know. All right, the next category is high-end / luxury palette. So one of my recent favorites, and if you watch my last like monthly palette ranking, I will link it down below. I'm gonna spoil the #1 slot though, so. But you could see where the other palettes landed. My favorite of that video was the NARS Afterglow Tempting palette. I really like this palette a lot. I'm not a big connoisseur of high-end makeup, definitely not a big connoisseur of luxury makeup. I don't have much luxury makeup, but I really am mostly reviewing indie makeup on this channel. But they sent this to me in PR, which I was extremely excited about. I don't love plastic packaging, but at least it feels like pretty sturdy and good quality plastic packaging. And this color story is a beautiful neutral color story. And I was expecting this to be dusty, crusty, not pigmented, you know, like not very good quality, but I actually feel like the quality is pretty darn good. The mattes are much more pigmented than I thought they were going to be. They have quite a bit of kick up in the pan. They pick up on a brush really nice. They end up showing up really nicely on the eyes. There are only 3 mattes, the rest are shimmers. They have, there are 2 different like shimmer formulas in here. I forget exactly what they're called. One of them is just like a shimmer formula and the other one is a glitter. It's not an actual like pressed glitter. I don't know why they call it a glitter because it's not glitter. It's just like more of a topper kind of shade and just really ethereal, pretty shimmers that catch the light really nicely. But there are some like standard shimmers, again, thin, standard shimmers and just a really pretty sophisticated ethereal look. I was very impressed with this. I was very impressed with this. Another one that kind of came out of nowhere for me that I tried at the very end of last year that I was really impressed with was the Lawless, the Dreamy Dozen Volume 2 palette. I actually took this from Angelica Nyqvist's declutter pile at her house. She was getting rid of this. She's not like a big neutrals person and I'm sure she's got so many things coming in and out of her collection. She didn't need this, but when I took this from her, I was on vacation in Austin and then I immediately went on vacation again and I took just this palette and I used the crap out of it. Light to deepen the mattes, light to deepen the shimmers. It's more of like a no frills formula, really good standard shimmers that are thin on the eyes, not as sparkly and ethereal as the NARS, just like a really pretty smooth standard shimmer. And the mattes are really good. I don't know, I was impressed with this. I feel like I'm going in now sometimes into high-end palettes thinking they're gonna suck, which maybe is not the best thing for me, but I think it's really good. It's really easy to travel with, really nice sturdy cardboard packaging. Love the outer packaging, like the cover and stuff. It's really nice. And then of course, when I think of high-end makeup in terms of eyeshadows, my favorite brand is Natasha Denona. And I already told you about the Mini Nude, which I love, but my favorite like midi palette from her currently is the I Need a Warm palette. Although the new Bloom palette, I haven't used it yet, but I feel like it's going to be up there because it is so gorgeous, but I really love this palette. Now again, I love warm tone neutrals. It is my favorite type of look to wear, so, you know, I'm a little partial to it. I just love this. I just think it's so stunning. I could have also put this in my favorite neutral palettes. I do feel like I need to revamp like my favorite neutral palettes because I haven't done one of those in a long time. Let me know if you would like that. I also need to revamp some more like brand rankings. Like I haven't ranked my Natasha Denona palettes in a long time. I would like to do some like brand rankings. So let me know which brands you would like me to rank. Let me know in the comments. But anyway, absolutely love this palette. I think it's so gorgeous. I just love the Natasha Denona quality. The mattes are blendable, pigmented, easy to work with. The shimmers, she's putting in newer shimmer formulas in her newer palettes, which I really appreciate. She does have that standard really pretty metallic, but she also puts in a multichrome, and I actually think the multichrome is pretty strong shifting because some brands, even indie brands, don't have the strongest shifting multichromes. We have some more like wet effect shadows that are more like toppers. She's mixing up her shimmer formula really well. Now, if you don't like neutrals or warm neutrals, I definitely don't suggest spending $69 on a palette like this, but for me, man, it's so good. It's so, so good. I really love it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There are so many more favorite palettes of mine that didn't really fit into any of these categories. Like I'm really enjoying the ColourPop Twilight New Moon palette. Absolutely love the palette. I also really love the Just a Taste palette from Unearthly Cosmetics, which launched last year. Those are some of my actual like truly current favorites. But yeah, I mean, these are just like kind of fun superlatives to play around with and let you know what I've been loving in certain categories. This is more just for fun. But yeah, stay tuned, subscribe. I do a monthly palette ranking of all the new palettes that are coming into my collection that I am testing and giving my final thoughts on in a ranking style. So I do that every month or so. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of the things I talked about today, any of the categories. What are some of your favorites? If you're interested in putting that in the comments, I would love to know. You don't have to do every category. You can just pick and choose whatever it is that you want to let me know about. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you very soon. Bye.